And welcome back for another episode of Thursdays with Charlie. This is number 73, the 21st of October, 2021. 73, that's my age, so we got a nice little connection with that today. I hope everybody enjoyed the show last week. What we did is we had a spliced video of all the events of the dedication day for the Garces Center, and I hope that you got a chance to check that out. If not, check it out. It's still up online, and you can enjoy that. That would be last week's episode on the 14th of October. Dedication was really a good time. Well, just a couple of update information over here. We were able to get our Christmas party settled at the Riverside. So we're going to be in the Starview room where we always have been for the Christmas party. It'll be Friday, the 10th of December, 2021. We'll start gathering at 5 o'clock. Dinner will be at 6. The show will be at 7. And we'll have some raffles and fun at 8. So looking forward to that. We decided to keep the price at $25 per person. So that's what we're going to charge. And we will still be able to have tables of 10. So if you want to get a group of friends or family together and have your own table, that would be 10 tickets bought at the same time for a table, and that would be $250. But otherwise, $25 a person, and you can sit at a table with other parishioners who will be coming. We're looking forward to it very, very much. The tickets will go on sale the first weekend of November. That will be the weekend of November 6th and 7th. So you can have your groups ready. You can be ready to go. You can collect the money from your group if you're putting a table together, and just see us at any of the masses that weekend of November 6th or 7th. And then they'll be available after that at the church office. $25 a person, table of 10, $250. Should be a really nice time, and we'll look forward to it very, very much. One of the things from the Garces Center dedication that we had 2 items that the people who came received. They received a photo album, which was also the program for the event, and they received a gift box dedicated to the memory of Father Francisco Garces. We have some of these items that are left, and last weekend we sold a lot of them at $5 each, or 3 for $10. But I just want to show everybody what was contained in them, and if you're interested, this weekend will probably be the last weekend that we have any of them left. And again, it's not a replaceable item. We're not going to make any more of them, so it will go down as part of our history after this weekend. But we had these photo albums, which we did, and they're beautifully made and put together. They have about 15 actual photos in it, and I always enjoy, my centerfold was the governor of Nevada and the Bishop of Las Vegas. 2 good pictures of them in there. But there's also other pictures of the building and Father McShane and the deacons and myself and the building committee. So if you're interested, $5 each, or 3 for $5, for $10, I'm sorry. And then we had these Garces gift boxes. They make a really nice table box. Picture of Father Garces, which is unique to our parish. We had these commissioned, so we have the copyright on those. And the box opens up to a bunch of little items dedicated to the memory of Father Garces. There's a prayer card with some basic information about Father Garces on it. There's a votive candle which has a sticker indicating it comes from the Garces Center. Candles, don't forget, in the 1700s would have been their source of light, so a candle kind of associates very well with Father Garces. We have a bottle of the Colorado River Holy Water. We're not selling these. We're including one in the gift box, but you're actually paying for the box and the other items. These are available alone for whatever donation you would like to give. Father Garces was a great lover of chocolate, and in his day, we're not talking about chocolate pieces We're talking about a hot chocolate drink, and I can't remember the name of it in Spanish, but it was something that they would actually mix up and serve a hot beverage. And so it was something he enjoyed throughout his life from Spain, came over to the New World over here, and it was still popular and certainly an item loved by him. So we have a Swiss Miss chocolate in here, not exactly the type that he drank, but as close to it as we could get. I'm always reminded of the story of Father Garces. There was a commandant of the garrison that the Spaniards had sent over, and he felt sorry for the padres of the Franciscan order, and he wanted to give them something. So he called each one in and said, "Tell me what it is you want, and I personally, out of my money, will get it for you." And some asked for farm implements, some asked for seeds for their missions. Father Garces came in and he said he wanted a lock for the box where he kept his chocolate because it was disappearing. And so that garrison commander got him a lock for his box of chocolate. There's also a pen in there, not exactly the type of pen that Father Garces would have used, but a pen to remind us that his diary is very important to us. His diary is the very first European writing done in Nevada. His entry from March 3rd and 4th, 1776, was written in Spanish, and it was written right here in Nevada. It's also a very small compass. Father Garces had a compass that he was able to use, and he used it well. If you think about the fact that he traveled up and down the Colorado River, traveled all the way from Sonora, the province of Sonora, over to the western coast of the Pacific coast, he certainly knew his way around and knew how to use navigational devices. There's a clamshell. Clamshells were used especially by the Indian tribes in the West as money and as gifts and as items of goodwill between tribes. Garces would have been familiar with this as an item of trade. We have a picture of the Garces sign, which is a Nevada State Highway marker, which is on Needles Highway, kind of near Big Bend State Park, and an artist's conception of our new building. This we got from the architect just before they started construction on the new building. Of course, if we dig down deeper in the box, there's a notebook, again, a reminder of Father Garces' diary, and then in the bottom, a list of why each item is in the container over here. And as I said, the box itself makes a nice desk item to have. So until they're gone, these are available at $5 each or 3 for $10. And a nice memento of our Garces Center. We did receive some updates on our troop outreach program. People have been asking. For many years, we were able to make, fill, and send Christmas stockings to our troops deployed around the world, to our troops through USOs at various airports, through our active duty military on bases around and in VA homes around the country. Last year, because of COVID, nobody wanted to accept anything coming in from the outside, so we didn't do it. We did accumulate some stockings that people had made, but we were unable to send them out. This year I've been making inquiries, and a lot of places are still uncertain about what they can take and how they would use them. I spoke with the chaplain's office up at Nellis Air Force Base, and they're still very limited on the number of people they can have together for a program, so they're not even sure what they're going to do for Christmas festivities other than the liturgy itself. I checked with some VA homes and I checked with some USOs at airports. What I was able to establish is there's a veterans home in Middleton and Madison, Wisconsin, the William C. Middleton home. We have supported them for several years, again, not last year because of COVID, and I asked them if they would be willing to take some stockings for the veterans there. They said they would take 100 stockings, but no food. It had to be all non-edible things like notepads or paper, facial tissues, or cosmetics, but nothing consumable. And so we're going to put together 100 stockings for the Middleton home in Madison, Wisconsin. I checked with the USO at Las Vegas Airport. They said they would take 200 stockings to give to the troops who would be transiting the base over the holidays. They figured that 200 would be sufficient for what they would want this year from us. And I think in looking back at it, I think we'll probably do those 300 stockings, 100 for the Veterans Home with no food, and 200 for the USO at LAS, which we can drive up to them. And I think we'll make that our purpose this year. We'll give you some information on that over the weekend. We'll do a one-day packing thing because it'll be a very simple packing. And next year, we'll start getting ready in the spring. We'll ask people to give us names and military addresses for individuals in units that would be willing to accept stockings next year and distribute them to their units. So we'll go back to doing that, as well as checking with the VA homes and the USOs and the bases in the area. So this year will be a very limited troop outreach program. Any stockings that are donated will be kept until we use them next year, or ones we'll use this year. Any money that's donated for postage or for buying supplies, again, what we don't use this year will be kept aside for that for next year. We will not use it for any other purpose. And we're very grateful, and we look forward to seeing that Christmas stocking for the troops program back in full swing next year for Christmas 2022. Now, among things that are coming up, Nevada is one of a unique number of states. It's actually number one, that's how unique it is, in celebrating the day it became a state in the United States. And it's called Nevada Day. Nevada Day is celebrated every year on the last Friday of October. So not tomorrow, but next Friday is going to be Nevada Day. So next week's show is going to be devoted to all things Nevada. We'll have a lot of interesting things on it, and we'll celebrate the holiday on the 29th. It occurs this year, a couple of days before Halloween. So we'll look forward to that. Next week's show will have to do with Nevada and all things Nevada. This week we had two special feast days. Monday of this week, the 18th of October, was the feast of the evangelist and the apostle, St. Luke. St. Luke has a beautiful history, and he's given us some wonderful things. And I'd like to just mention a few of the things of why we're indebted to St. Luke. Tradition says Luke was a physician. He was a person who was schooled in the medicine of his day, and that might be one of the reasons why, if you read Luke's gospel, they seem to have the most detailed information about the cures that Jesus worked. It was obviously something that Luke himself was interested in, and so he does go into greater detail with some of the healing miracles that Jesus did. And almost invariably in Luke, no matter what the disease, Jesus stretches out his hand and touches the person. That idea of human touch, being a divine touch in this case also, is something that Jesus felt was very important. And almost all his cures were worked never at a distance, but by physical touch. He helped the person up. He helped the person stretch out his hand. He touched the person's eyes. Reached out. That human touch was very, very significant. And Luke makes a point of noting that. Luke had a unique relationship with two very important people in the life and ministry of Jesus. Luke, tradition says, was a friend of Mary for the rest of her life. And so Luke had access to Mary and her views and her information on things that happened in the course of Jesus' life that none of the other writers of the Gospels or of anything had. And Luke also had a special relationship with St. Paul. In fact, he did a lot of the travels of St. Paul. He either went with Paul or met up with Paul in various places. And so Luke, in addition to writing his gospel, also wrote what we know as the Acts of the Apostles, and which details the spread of the early church in the first 30 years or so of its existence. So we're indebted to Luke for giving us a lot of this information, and at least as far as it applies to Paul and Mary, a lot of the information he gives is firsthand knowledge he got from someone who was there as it was happening. Luke also seems to pay more attention than the other evangelists, Matthew, Mark, and John. More attention he seems to pay to the women in the gospel, their role, their ministry with Jesus. And he also gives us something beautiful, the stories of Jesus' infancy and birth. Only two of the Gospels give us what we call infancy narratives, Matthew and Luke. And Luke seems to give us many of the stories that we so beautifully associate with the Blessed Virgin Mary. The idea of the angel Gabriel coming and announcing to her her visit with Elizabeth, and so many of those other events. In fact, we can kind of look at the Rosary, which is very appropriate in this month of October, and say that the entire group of mysteries called the Joyful Mysteries, they come to us out of Luke's Gospel. If it were not for St. Luke's writing, we would not have these stories, and we would not have their mysteries of the Rosary that comprise the Joyful Mysteries. And so the first joyful mystery, the Annunciation. The angel Gabriel comes and announces to Mary that she's to be the mother of the Savior, the mother of Jesus. That visit by the angel Gabriel, commemorated in the first joyful mystery, is a very key figure in Luke's early chapters. The visitation, Mary visits her cousin Elizabeth when she finds out that Elizabeth is pregnant, and we all know that Elizabeth's child is going to be John the Baptist, our parish patron. And Mary goes to Elizabeth, and we get those beautiful prayers, the Benedictus and the Magnificat. Mary's prayer, "My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Savior," and so on. Those are all from Luke's Gospel, those beautiful prayers. The story of Jesus' birth, the census, Caesar Augustus, that's all given to us through Luke's Gospel. Matthew contributes the wise men and some other things to that story, but it's basically Luke's story of how the Holy Family got to Bethlehem for the birth of Jesus. And then later on, the presentation of Jesus in the temple. Jesus, Mary, Joseph going to the temple of Jerusalem to present Jesus to God, a Jewish ritual that was so rich in the history of the Jewish religion. And finally, the finding of Jesus in the temple. Jesus and Mary and Joseph go up to the temple when Jesus is about 12 years old. And there, somehow, Jesus gets separated from Mary and Joseph, and they find him 3 days later speaking with the teachers in the temple. Beautiful stories of Jesus' early life, and they only come to us through the writings of St. Luke. So we do owe him a great deal of gratitude for providing us with these. And on Tuesday of this week, on the 19th of October, we celebrated the feast of the North American Martyrs. Martyrs are always interesting to me. There were always people in the history of our church that felt their belief, their religion, was more important than anything, even life itself to them. and they would travel from their home countries to various places to spread the religion. Father Garces did that certainly in coming over to Mexico and the area that became our American Southwest, spreading the faith. Missionaries from the Jesuit order came to upstate, what is New York State now, and they set up missions there to preach to the Indian tribes there, and many of them ended up giving up their lives. There's one particular area in upper New York State. It's Auriesville, New York. It's just a few miles, maybe 20 miles west of Albany, New York. And it was a major trading area, and the missionaries set up a lot of their base there. And several of them, Isaac Jogues and John de Brebeuf and John Lalande and several others, gave their lives there. It was also the place where one of the Indians, Caesaris, the Lily of the Mohawks, was baptized at the church in Auriesville, New York. I have a connection with Auriesville. Whenever I would make my retreat out here in the Diocese of Las Vegas, we priests make our retreat together. Last year we went out to the Carmelite Sisters in Alhambra, California. But when I was back in the Newark Diocese, each priest was required to make the retreat, but you could do it wherever you wanted. And for many years I chose to do the drive, about 2.5 hours, up to Auriesville, New York, and I would make my retreat for a week at the shrine of the North American Martyrs. There was just something beautiful about the place where people had shed their blood and given their lives in the service of the faith that I was allowed to profess so freely. It made it an excellent spot for the retreat, plus the countryside was so absolutely beautiful up there, and I always enjoyed going. I still look back on those days fondly in the pictures I have of it. So Auriesville, New York, the North American Martyrs, we commemorated on Tuesday of this week, a reminder of how important the faith is, that there have always been people that have felt our faith is more important than even human life itself on this planet. In November, we have 2 important feasts that are coming up. November 1st, of course, will be All Saints' Day, and we'll say a lot more about that as we get closer. November 2nd is All Souls' Day, a day on which we remember our deceased relatives and friends. And we'll say more about that as we get closer and closer to that. The envelopes for All Souls' Day are in your envelope packets, and there also extras are available at the Riverside when we have Mass, and here at the church also. Wanted to say something. Every now and then I get a special gift, something that I'm not totally expecting, and something that I really, really long for or dream about getting. One of our parishioners, Ted Pamperin, a wonderful man, but he has a hobby of collecting coins. And I think that's a fascinating hobby. I think it's a beautiful one. And he once said to me, he said, if there's ever anything connected with coins that you're interested in and you would like, let me know. And I said, there is one thing. It's a little bit unusual. And he said, well, what is it? And I said, that gospel passage where Jesus holds up the coin of tribute and says to his apostles, whose image is this? And they say, Caesar's. And he says, well, then give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but give to God what belongs to God. I said, I would really like to have that coin with the image of Caesar so that when that gospel passage comes up, I could reference it in my sermon. And I mentioned it, and it took a while, quite a few months, but Ted was actually able to find a denarius. Now, the first thing that surprised me with the denarius is how small it is. It's an absolutely tiny coin. It's a silver coin, but much smaller. It's actually smaller than our modern day dime. I was able to enlarge a picture of it so you can get a little better view of the denarius. And each emperor had the coins minted with his picture on it during the years he was emperor. Now, the denarius that I got from Ted, it was minted in Rome in 89 AD. The Roman year was used, but it's our equivalent of 89 AD. And the emperor whose image is on it is Domitian. And Domitian was the emperor from 89 until 96 AD. So for 7 years, Domitian was the emperor. He was the son of the previous emperor Vespasian, and his son, not his son, a relative became emperor after him. He was an interesting character, Domitian. He had a relationship. Some people said that he was very autocratic. He did things his way, and a lot of people liked that. Many of the Roman senators, however, did not care for that particular attribute, and in the end he was assassinated because of his enemies in the Roman Senate and in Rome at large. But one of the things they talked about is what was his relationship with the Christians, that newly developed Christian sect. This was only about maybe about 40 or so years after Jesus' death that he had become emperor, and it was in Rome. And he seemed to treat the Christians and the Jews like any other sect that was not aligned with Rome. He was very big on the idea that the Roman emperor was really a godlike figure, and anyone who didn't buy into that or believe that, he was opposed to. So he opposed Christians and Jews, not because they were Christians and Jews, but because, like some other groups, they were not in favor of the emperor being godlike. And he declared himself to be an eternal and everlasting censor of what was right and what was wrong. That was kind of prideful of him, I guess you could say, that he would be the decider of what was right or wrong. But that's one of the things he had himself declared. He ruled for those 7 years. There were Christian persecutions and Jewish persecutions, but like I said, he seemed to persecute anybody who did not go along with his view that the emperor was God. One of the things that impressed me, the coin is really very beautiful, and when you think of it, this coin is almost 2,000 years old, and you can still see the figure of the emperor on it. They were made very well. It has a very high silver content by comparison with our modern day coin. So it was made to last for a long, long time. But it still impresses me very much how very small it is. And it reminds me, if you see any pictures of ancient times, you don't see men or the senators of Rome or anybody with wallets. They had pouches, and the pouches usually had like a drawstring on it. And I guess because the coins were so small, that made sense. You would not drop the coins out. So when we get to that gospel passage where Jesus holds up a coin and says, whose image is on this? Then give to Caesar what is Caesar's, but give to God what belongs to God. I'm going to have an actual denarius to hold up. And that is something I have really wanted for a long, long time. And I'm glad that I'm able to get it now. Well, it's time for Pascal to come on down and join us. And very appropriately, he brings that message from the gospel. Dare Caesari, quod est Caesaris, et Deo, quod est proprium Dei. Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but give to God what belongs to God. A good message for any time or any place. God bless you, and see you next week as we talk about all things Nevada.